Greetings, salutations, all of those things. This is the incredibly creatively and appropriately named Query and Schultz program. My name is Jake Query. This is Derek Schultz. Derek, this is episode number what?
This is episode, I think the reincarnation of the show is now legally able to drink.
Really?
I think this is 21. This might be 22.
I think it's 20.
It's definitely not 20. We've done
Really?
2-0. Yep.
21, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
Not bad.
We'll do shots of milk later.
21 of, who knows, 2,000, 20,000?
Here's
Who knows
the
how
good news.
long
This
the
show is
will last.
now old enough that we are not going to be talking about potty training this time.
You know what? We got, I'm glad that you brought that up, Jake. We had an overwhelmingly positive response
Okay, sure.
from dads and moms saying, you know, Derek, I really connected with that, and it's great to learn about your life and who you are as a person.
No, that's a
And
popular topic for
unfortunately,
sociopaths.
somebody doesn't want me to share that part of me with the audience. But I am here for you guys. I'm here
graphic.
for
Language
my
is a little
fans.
graphic. Let's begin with the big. We have a lot to talk about here. Again, my name is Jake Query. This is Derek Schultz. This is Query and Schultz on ISC Sports Network. And obviously, the NFL is all year round. There's no question about that. Week leading up to the Super Bowl. But from a local perspective, focusing on the Colts, we have Pacers to talk about, college basketball to talk about, a lot to get to over the course of the show. But let's begin with, Derek, the big NFL story that's going to have a ripple effect to Indianapolis. I find it interesting because when Matthew Stafford, when it came out that he and the Detroit Lions were amicably parting ways, automatically it was assumed by people, well, here you go. See, the Colts are going to be able to get Matthew Stafford if they want him. No. He wasn't a free agent. This was a trade that had to take place. It takes two to tango. Probably every franchise, I'm guessing there were people that were in name a city looking for a quarterback.
Well, allegedly San Francisco.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
In San Francisco were people saying, oh, Matthew Stafford, I mean, when the Niners get Stafford, here's what's going to happen. Were people in Miami saying, if they lose Tua, they're going to get Stafford, and here's what's going to happen. It takes two to tango. This was not a certainty. I didn't know what – we talked about it. What were you going to give up to get your quarterback? If the Colts know where they were with competent quarterback play based on what they had with Phillip Rivers, okay, then whatever – if you say Phillip Rivers is out, we've got to get another competent quarterback in there, what are you giving up to get that competent quarterback? And are you giving up enough that you now need to elevate your quarterback play from where it was last year that much more to make up for what you're alleviating? You look at what the Los Angeles Rams gave up for Stafford, 2 first-rounders, and Jared Goff, who's been a nice player. I realize that for whatever reason it ran south in Los Angeles, but Jared Goff has thrown for 18,000 yards in his career. 63% of his passes have been completed. He's been to a Super Bowl. He was a number 1 overall pick. Hefty price tag, and it shows that the Colts, if they want to get a quarterback that's at the Rivers or higher level, it's going to be expensive.
Yeah, for sure. And, what else it shows is that clearly Stafford wasn't their guy, because if the Colts, according to reports, weren't even serious about giving up number 21, then they were going to fall well short of these other packages, right? Because apparently Carolina offered number 8 or 9 or whatever they have, so a top 10 pick this year plus another pick. I really thought that it was going to take 2 1s or a 1 or a 2, and clearly the Colts weren't willing to give that up. I think the reason why the Rams got an extra 1 the Lions got an extra 1 was because the Rams had to give them Goff's contract. The Lions knew they had to absorb that, and there's a quarterback tax, as we call it, with the draft when you're trading up. I think there's also a quarterback tax with any trades that happen, and I think that's essentially what happened. So a lot of people are saying, well, this is Stafford's value. Well, yes and no. I mean, Stafford still is a very capable player who has a window of productive years left coming for him, we're assuming, right? But I think the trade package itself was just showing how desperate the Rams were to get out from under the Goff contract, and they feel like their window is right now. So even if Stafford only has 2 or 3 good years, who cares? The Rams' window is that 2 or 3 good years.
Now, here's the thing with Goff and that contract, okay? Again, this is not – there are certain guys that you look at and you say, wait a minute, they got how much money? And Nick Foles.
Yeah.
Nick Foles got a big contract, and, who I think, by the way, Nick Foles, who has a year left in Chicago, depending on what happens with the Bears, it would not surprise me if Nick Foles is in the mix to end up in Indianapolis. But I've got to give the Detroit Lions a lot of credit, Derek, because Here you have a guy in Stafford that is their franchise guy, right? And for whatever reason, both parties decided it was in their best interest to break up. This was a responsible, they're still getting along, breakup. And the Lions, I'll give them credit. I mean, you want to talk about a clean breakup with your franchise quarterback where everybody's on good terms and you get a haul coming back in. I don't think Goff's a terrible player. I think he's a good player. Not great.
Yeah, so
but he's a
I actually
solid player.
thought that he was he was not at the top of the list, but he was higher than most on my list of Colts potential options because we knew the Rams were looking to move on. So I agree with you on Goff, and I think he showed a little something a couple of years ago, and it's about recapturing that now, and maybe the change of scenery is going to end up helping him. But, a lot of people dogging the Rams for this deal, and, well, they've got no picks, and who cares? If they feel like their window is right now, go for it now. You know what I mean? Like, are the Toronto Raptors mad because they gave up what they gave up to get Kawhi Leonard? Right. Are the Chicago Cubs mad that they gave up Gleyber Torres to get Aroldis Chapman? That World Series maybe doesn't happen without Chapman, right? Yeah, it sucks you don't have Torres now, but you got the series, right? That's what you wanted. If you want to win now, go ahead and win now. So I'm not saying that this move is a slam dunk and this is absolutely going to work out for the Rams, but I understand their rationale for doing this.
If you are Jared Goff, you were born in the state of California. You went to high school in the state of California. You played collegiately at Cal Berkeley, which, by the way, has had more quarterbacks start the Super Bowl than any other school in Division I college football. You get drafted number 1 overall by the Rams. You're living in L.A., you're spending your off Sundays on Rodeo Drive. You're eating at Spago. You're hanging out in Beverly Hills. Every once in a while you go to Huntington Beach. You're on your way to Detroit, Michigan.
You like Detroit, don't you?
I don't dislike Detroit.
Okay. Most people dislike Detroit, so maybe you not disliking Detroit.
But if I had to – and look, I live in Indianapolis, born and raised, so glass houses here, right?
Yeah, a lot of people would say that about Indy.
If you've got to move to Detroit from September to February,
But you have to also look at this as...
you look out your window and you're like, how did I end up in Poland?
No, I totally understand that, but I think if you're Goff, you have to look at this as, hey, here's a chance for me to hit the reset button. You know what I mean? And restart
with the franchise that went to the NFC title game in 91.
Just hear me out.
Sign me up.
This is a chance to reset. The expectation bar is much lower in Detroit.
The greatest running back and arguably the greatest receiver of the last 30 years played for the Lions, and they went 9-7 once.
Matthew Stafford,
yes.
Jake, if Matthew Stafford has the same career in Los Angeles, he never makes it 12 years there. It's just different. It's a different set of expectations. The Lions were so happy to make the playoffs 3 times with Matthew Stafford that they were willing to keep him around as long as he wanted to stay, right? I think there's something to that.
I mean, did Jared Goff have to tell his family, like, guys, I won't be at Thanksgiving for the next 4 years, right?
Jake, he makes like $80 million or whatever a year. And
I will say,
you just hop on a PJ and go.
PJ?
Yeah, private jet.
Okay. The Lions, now they do have great helmets.
They have a great color scheme.
They do.
Everything about that franchise really is great, except for the fact that they can't really play football. You know, I really do like I love the Silver Dome. I always thought the Silver Dome was super cool, and WrestleMania and all that stuff, and Barry Sanders, and there's a lot of history there, but it's just not a lot of winning history.
You can't dislike the Lions.
No, no, you watch them get dunked on and ragdolled every Thanksgiving.
Ragdolled?
Yeah, blown out.
You know that the Lions, they redid their helmet. If you look at the helmet here.
Yeah, it's an angrier lion.
Right. They called him Bubbles before because he was like playing with bubbles, and then now they've added like a little bit more tenacity.
I would have just done like a little smile for the lion. Like,
really?
Yeah.
He's happy. Do you like the Seahawk logo? That's another great color scheme, the original Seahawks color scheme.
Yeah, I like the original Seahawks color scheme. I think they kind of... sort of like the Buccaneers, there's just been a little too much going on with their uniforms lately. But I get that that's the trend. That's what people like now.
The Bucs uniforms.
Let's talk about, though, how this – I didn't expect for this to be, talk about Jared Goff's life. Let's talk about how this move affects the Colts, Jake, because now, you're right. The Colts, a lot of people thought it was a slam dunk. It was not a slam dunk. So now you go to plan B, and you look at this veteran list, and it's not a great list.
Right.
Derek Carr, Matt Ryan, if they become available at all, and then some guys that are likely to hit free agency again,
Nick
like
Foles?
Jameis Winston. Well, Mitchell Trubisky. I guess it depends on who they choose, right? Or Jalen Hurts or Carson Wentz. It depends on. I think the Eagles are going to choose Hurts, but I don't know. Nothing would surprise me right now. So, the one thing that would shock me is that I think it was Andrew Brandt had a tweet that said the price for Stafford was so high because he's the only quarterback that's going to get traded. And I'm thinking to myself, I would be floored if no other quarterback gets traded this entire offseason. Floored.
Well, I'll bet, there's a chance I'm going to be proven wrong on this. And I have nothing, it's not like I've been on the phone with people. My suspicion is that Deshaun Watson will not be traded.
Oh, me too. Yeah, but that's a different
and I
conversation.
know he wants out, but the Texans control the strings there because of his contract. They can say, hey, okay, fine, we'll just fine you $50,000 a day until you show up.
Yeah, he just doesn't really have any leverage.
Right.
You've got an unhappy franchise player, which sucks, but I'd rather have an unhappy Deshaun Watson than not have him at all.
And by the way, let me I don't want to get too off on a tangent here. And maybe I've said this before. I love Deshaun Watson. For those that don't know, I'm a huge Clemson fan. So I love him. Watched him play his entire career at Clemson, every snap. Went to the national title game, the whole deal. But he's an employee. The whole you got to respect your franchise quarterback and consult him for coaching hires in general. Why? I realize you got to make sure he's happy, but does that mean that he's in there? Does he suddenly become ZipRecruiter? He's an employee. Derek, we worked at a major conglomerate radio station. The station that we were on, we were the only local show on our station. We were the faces of that station. How often did they come to us to consult us about moves they were making?
Yeah, rarely. Only one of us really provide the value that Deshaun Watson provides the Texans.
That's okay.
I think that one is pretty obvious. But, yeah, Jake, I think we kind of talked about this either on last week's show or 2 weeks ago. I know that this topic was broached before. I just think that there's a give and take. There's a way to handle that tactfully. Yes, Deshaun Watson is their employee, but you don't want to browbeat your franchise player. You want him to feel like he's included. And I think what Watson's whole argument is, look, I re-signed. I want to be here. I want to help build a winner in Houston. Let me be part of this process and let me try to help.
So did tight ends. So did linebackers.
But Jake, Watson is, I think, going to end up being a Hall of Fame type player. He is maybe not transcendent.
So is J.J. Watt.
Yeah, for sure. But I think you want Watt to be happy as well. I mean, there are other guys that you want them to be happy.
Outraged that J.J. Watt was not consulted?
Don't you think that the Colts wanted to make Peyton Manning happy with decisions and all of that? They wouldn't just up and release Brandon Stokely in the middle of a Wednesday night or something like that.
I don't see Peyton Manning coming out and saying, that's it, I want out.
I think Manning, it was very
he probably was
calculated in how he handled things, but when Peyton Manning was unhappy, remember in whatever year that was, 2011, when he brought his kids in the locker room, and everyone's like,
oh, yeah,
what are his kids doing in the locker room? Everything that Peyton Manning has ever done has been thought about and strategized.
Right.
So he's a cunning person when it comes to those things, and I do think that maybe Watson isn't as much so, and maybe Watson has been a little too blunt.
Derek, I love Deshaun Watson. Don't get me wrong. I love Deshaun Watson. I just think, and maybe I'm just becoming an old guy, I think this narrative that just because somebody's the highest paid employee means that they now all of a sudden are privy to every executive decision. No, the benefit of being the highest paid employee first and foremost is you get the biggest check.
But again, the risk that you run with that, like my way or the highway, is that you don't want to have disgruntled – you don't want to have your face of the franchise speak out against the franchise and be public about his discontent, right? That hurts you. It makes you look bad. Everyone's pointing and laughing at the Texans right now. If I'm part of their brass, I don't want that. I want him to be happy. So I want to try to do what I can do without relinquishing too much power. So again, I think more than it's black and white, it's just there's a balance.
Okay, let's get back to Colts quarterbacks. If you had to guess – who is the starting quarterback for the Colts week 1?
It's so hard to say, isn't it? If I had to guess, a guy that to me checks a lot of the boxes but is a stopgap type guy, if he were to be made available in a longer window than Phillip Rivers, honestly, is Matt Ryan. I don't think that's an ideal situation, but the Colts don't have an ideal situation available to them. So to me, Ryan would be the best bet to kind of carry that on and keep the seat warm for the next person. But the more that I think about it, Jake, the more that I think that the Colts may draft somebody or even trade up. And if that person isn't starting week 1, they would sign one of these, Fitzpatrick or somebody like that, Foles, and just throw them in there at the very beginning until they felt like their rookie quarterback was ready.
Okay, here is where I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. I think in the NFL, typically what you try to do is you are trying constantly, you are chasing to put yourself in position to be able to pounce in a 3 to 4 year window. And the quarterback can mask a lot of deficiencies. But if you have a pretty balanced roster and things are starting to come together for you where you have a good young receiver that's got some playmaking ability if they can keep Pittman healthy. Mm-hmm. You've got good young running backs that offer some diversity. Solid offensive line. Defensively speaking, yeah, there's some question marks in a couple of areas, but for the most part, you've got young talent on defense. Your window's opening right now. So that means that the Colts do one of two things. You either go out and get a guy that you're all in, or you get a guy to stabilize you for a year until you can go out and get somebody who is also going to be peaking towards maybe the backside now of that 3 to 4 year window. If you go out and get a veteran, Derek, it is theoretically somebody that you are having keep it in the center lane for a year until you can get that guy that is entering in and can still be within your 4 year window. Jacoby Brissett would be that guy that's a stabilizer if that's what you need. There's not a lot of purpose for Brissett probably, except for he is Ryan Fitzpatrick or whoever 1 year guy is without having to give up anything to get him. And he knows the system, et cetera, et cetera. In terms of drafting young talent, I don't disagree with you, except for that they have that guy on the roster.
But they've never talked about him like that.
Understood, but there has to be a reason why if the Colts didn't believe there was a future worth investigating with Jacob Eason, they wouldn't have kept him on the roster for the entire year.
But I don't think that plan meant he's going to be our starter his second year. I mean, he barely even did anything as far as this year was concerned. They basically had him on ice for the most part. They wanted him to learn how to be a professional and all of that.
Understood, but I mean, Aaron Rodgers, how many snaps did he take in his rookie year? But everyone knew it was eventually going to be handed over to him.
Yeah, but I still think that I don't think Rodgers was a flyer. I think Rodgers was taken as a guy that was going to be a franchise guy.
I personally don't think Jacob Eason is a flyer.
Oh, 100% Jacob Eason was a flyer. I think they felt like he could be a cheap backup for them, and if anything beyond that would be gravy. That's what I think. I'm just going on their words, Jake, of what they've said about him.
I think they took him thinking this may be worth investigating whether he is a guy that we can invest in for a long term at some point. But in the first year, again, the window was there, right? So, we got to see what we can do with a veteran. So Phillip Rivers comes in. I know that there's been a report that they told Phillip Rivers they were going to move on. I think ideally they thought, if we can get 2 years and Eason can groom under 2 years and then we see what we have. I just think Eason is going to be in the mix when you're talking about who's going to be their guy in 2 to 3 years. I think he is still in that mix.
Let me just address something else. I am all the way out on Brissett as a starter again, all the way out. He is, to me, not a starting caliber quarterback, and people could say, well, can you name 32 quarterbacks? No, but to me, a starting caliber quarterback is somebody that you really have a chance with, and I just don't think that you have a chance with him. I think you have a chance with Jacoby Brissett coming in and starting a game or two if, your quarterback hurts his thumb or something, you know what I mean, or something like that. I think Brissett can be a spot starter, but I don't think that he's a starting caliber player. And I don't know that, this talk about, well, he's young and blah, 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 blah. Look, guys, he's had 35-something starts, and he's 28 years old. He's not young. He's been in the league. Everything that we've seen, that we're going to see, we've seen from Brissett so far. So, the only way that I think Brissett comes back is that every single other possible option is exhausted,
right,
and you have no other choice.
Well, what I'm saying, Derek, is if you look at the Colts this past season, Your goal each and every year is to be, at the very least, to be the same or to get better a year later, okay? If you look at where the Colts are, how many quarterbacks out there are going to make them better than what they received this past year? Matthew Stafford will be one. He's off the board now. Who else?
There's probably no one else.
Right. Deshaun
Honestly.
Watson. Okay, great.
Yeah, but we're only talking realistic
Not available.
options. Yeah.
So if you know that you are not going to, you know where you are when you have veteran quarterback play that is reliable, and you are a team that plays until the final play with the division in contention for you, and then gets into the playoffs and probably gets beat on the road. Okay, fine. So you need to elevate one rung higher than that, if not two. If it's not Matthew Stafford or Deshaun Watson, then what quarterback gets you that rung higher? Well, no one. Okay, so then let's tread water for a year while we build other pieces, and then go out and find out who our guy is.
Yeah, well, I think the other approach, Jay, could be, because these veterans are split into two piles. You have guys like Matt Ryan who are at the end of their window, and then you have guys like Darnold and Wentz who are still young and potentially salvageable.
That's correct.
Or even like Mitchell Trubisky, even though my God, I can't even picture the Colts trying to sell that to their fan base that, hey, Mitchell Trubisky is going to be our quarterback here. But there are some young guys who still, ever since Ryan Tannehill happened, now every team's going to look at that and be like, oh, well, we can't write this person up because, see, Ryan Tannehill. Yeah,
and Nick
Ryan
Foles,
Tannehill's
to
like
an extent, was the same thing
example
in Philly, right? I mean, Nick Foles starts his career where, in St. Louis? Is that where he started?
Yeah.
But that's where he got, like, significant snaps, and then, boom, he goes to Philly, and, he's kind of
Oakland, I think he was
maybe
for a while.
Look, here is the bottom line. This franchise and the people of Indianapolis and the fans of the Colts franchise have become spoiled, and that's a good thing. I'm not saying that as a knock on anybody. It's a good problem to have. But, Derek, I'm old enough to remember. The Colts come here from Baltimore, and they bring with them Art Schlechter, talented guy from Ohio State. He's got some issues, but, man, he can run the ball and he can throw. And then Mike Pagel, though, he's nice and stable. He's a stable player. And then, hey, Jack Trudeau's actually playing pretty well. I mean, this is a second-round pick, and he looks pretty good. And then they're going to get Jeff George, a franchise quarterback. Craig Erickson's going to be great. Steve Walsh is going to be guy. Don Mikowski, look at I didn't know that. Chris Chandler looks really good that they drafted. And wait a minute, they traded Chandler. That's disappointing. But Jim Harbaugh,
yep.
His second lease here. This is great. And then, wait a minute, Kelly Holcomb, Paul Justin, boom. Peyton Manning into Andrew Luck. And the whole time that they're just cruising along, keeping it in the center lane for 16 seasons, every other team in the league is doing exactly what the Colts were doing from 84 to 98. And they're right back in that.
Most of the NFL. I mean, what do you think Jacksonville Sports Talk Radio is? Every single year at this time, they're talking about who's the next quarterback going to be.
Right.
New York with the Jets, it's the same thing. The Browns for a long time before finally Baker Mayfield.
The Broncos have been chasing it since Elway retired, with the exception of the twilight they got out of Peyton Manning.
And the Bills before Josh Allen. I mean, God.
Right.
Tyrod Taylor and J.P. Lossman.
You remember Rob Johnson?
Rob Johnson and Doug Flutie, and my God. Just went right through them. The Dolphins, the same sort of a thing. Yeah. The Dolphins are still looking. They still don't know if they have their guy.
You don't think Tua's the guy?
I don't. I'm not going to write him off after 1 year, but he was not impressive.
Okay.
Do you think he was impressive this year?
It's disingenuous to say that I sat and broke down film of the Miami Dolphins.
I also did not break down Dolphins film, but just kind of on the outside
You know the guy that I kind of feel bad for? He's completed a pass to 8 different franchises in the league. Every place that Ryan Fitzpatrick goes, he starts out like playing super solid, and then he gets yanked for some young guy. Everywhere he goes,
he's laughing all the way to the bank, man. You pay me $15 million and you want me to start 4 games. All right, grow up my beard a little bit, do a couple press conferences, throw on some shades.
UConn Cornelius, man.
Yeah.
He's cool.
Yeah, he's just a guy kind of like me who's always been cognizant of his brand. And I respect that. I respect that.
There's no way you can grow out that kind of beard, but that's cool.
Oh, don't. Well, Ashley would divorce me, so I don't want that to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the beard would look good.
Yeah. You know what I really want to do is just grow out a real sick mustache. Like to kind of celebrate COVID being over whenever it's over. So maybe like 2023.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And
It's
get a
gonna be
really
while.
sick mustache.
It's going to be a while.
Yeah.
You know that, right?
Because I don't want any of the particles to get caught in there, too.
Okay.
That'd be a problem.
What else do we have to get to here on this
Man, we
episode
got
of
a
the
lot to
program?
get to.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you saw Pacers blew a 20-point lead to
did see
a team without an MVP candidate. So talk a little bit about that. Purdue and Indiana both facing big games. While you're watching this, they're going to be playing tonight because the show obviously debuts on Tuesdays. We're taping it right now on Monday. We've got Super Bowl storylines to talk about for the upcoming big game. Even though I feel like now with the 2-week layoff, in 1985 you could have a 2-week layoff and get away with it. Now I feel like I have to charge myself back up again.
I would agree.
For the Super Bowl.
You know what I
We'll
just
get
did,
into
by
that
the way,
too.
on the show, which has never been done before to my knowledge, and I'm actually impressed by it? I had to sneeze when I was talking about Deshaun Watson a minute ago.
You held it in?
I held it in the whole
he's
time.
a
The whole
true
time
pro.
I was talking about Watson, I was able to hold – I staved off this sensation in my sinuses.
Pro. An award-winning.
It's also
Jake Query.
I'm being COVID safe.
And we'll
even
talk
though I
about
get
that
tested
award
weekly.
coming up later on in the show as well.
Okay.
We're back with more on Query and Schultz.
was a
ISC
smooth
Sports
transition.
Network.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
The drive, the take, fouled, and it goes!
Lobbing it to the back of the end zone. They're going to say it's a touchdown.
Left foot gets through. Goal for Vargas. Hamilton will score!
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching, barn needs cleaning, tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do, from Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Derek, I mentioned the fact that for some reason, I had to sneeze earlier and I held it off. I don't know if you're watching. What are you doing there?
Trying to, like little birds on your shoulder, trying to
just-
stack both of these bags.
I am just simply
coffee.
enjoying. By the way, we need to get we did a great month. Wood Warbler Coffee, by the way, which is based in Noblesville, and it is a bird-friendly coffee, which basically means that they go through great lengths to make sure that the beans that they are roasting are grown all in a way that is safe for birds. And wood warblers are birds, by the way, but Wood Warbler Coffee and their website, Wood Warbler, that's Warbler, woodwarblercoffee.com is where you can get, Derek, the hot cup of Schultz, which is again, beans of coffee. They can grind them for you, too. But each sale that is made of the hot cup of Schultz, part of the proceeds go to different charities. And I want to thank Jeff Canada and Wood Warbler Coffee for Wheeler Mission being the first beneficiary of the holiday push, Derek, if you will, of the hot cup of Schultz. Now it will be the Humane Society of Indianapolis. I love the four-legged friends. And, they're always in need, of course, of funds at the Indiana Humane Society. But it begins with you folks going to Wood Warbler Coffee, Noblesville. Go to their website, woodwarblercoffee.com, and place the order. Different coffees that are available there, both ground and in the whole bean.
Yeah,
right?
I like the whole bean. I have a grinder at home.
You do?
Yep. So I just take this aromatic hot bag of Schultz. I actually reach into the hot sack of Schultz, grab out a hot bag, and put it in the grinder, and delicious coffee is a brewing right after that.
The hot cup of Schultz. I can't believe you actually did end up with your own coffee.
Yeah, a little tinge of jealousy in there.
Woodwarblercoffee.com. Not at all.
A little tinge of jealousy.
Not at all, because
That's okay. I'd be jealous too.
I'm not jealous because it's actually the charities that I choose that are benefiting from it.
Yeah, but it's really my face that's the driver of that. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Your
it
face?
is good. Two good causes.
Your face,
so
my
far
voice.
that we get to share with you.
Boy, the Pacers, I like what the Pacers are trying to do offensively in the fact that they are trying to play in a more fast-paced, three-point friendly offense. But as we've seen with Brooklyn, for example, sometimes having a great proficient offense means that you are giving up a little bit defensively or getting a little bit on your heels defensively. That's the case with the Nets, at least. And it certainly was the case for the Pacers against the Sixers. All of a sudden, you know, you get into the fourth quarter and a guy averaging 7 points a game scores 7 points in 2.5 minutes, and boom, a 20-point lead evaporates. Philly also goes to his own defense of the Pacers. It was like Tom Crean's teams against Syracuse.
Yeah, it was rough.
They had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah, 37-15 in that fourth quarter. Ooh. And you take Embiid out, and look, and Pacers fans will say, well, we had no LeVert, we had no Warren. Look, Embiid is an MVP frontrunner.
He is.
You know what I mean? He's one of the most dominant forces in the league. So, no offense to LeVert and Warren, who are nice players. They're not on that level of player. But it's frustrating. And it kind of, I think last night sort of summed up the January for the Pacers, where it just feels like they're close, but they can't quite get there. You know what I mean? Like they're fine. They're a perfectly capable basketball team. And on any given night, you could be really impressed. Like they had that nice win over Toronto a couple of weeks ago. But overall, they're just not quite where they need to be. And what they really need is they need LeVert. And you're worried about him as a human being off the court before you are on the court. But they gave up Oladipo right now in the basketball scheme of things. They gave up Oladipo for nothing because they haven't gotten a return for that.
Correct.
So you need LeVert to be out there. They already know that Warren is going to have an uphill climb to come back. But when they get LeVert back, I think they'll be fine. But again, Jake, it's very commendable that the Pacers have been able to maintain a level of consistent winning despite all of the roster overhaul of the last, upheaval, I was going to say, and then I combined it with overheaval of the roster over the last 4 or 5 years, but they're still just kind of stuck in this, 5-6 seed sort of purgatory.
One thing that they have done that's interesting to me is late in games, they are keeping T.J. McConnell on the floor when he's playing well. That typically wasn't the case for T.J. McConnell. If he was playing well, he would not, he would still come out in the rotation late in games. That I like what McConnell brings to the table when he is, if he's in a groove, so to speak, but not when you're going against his own defense. I will say that.
No.
I also do like what Jeremy Lamb brings to the table. He is not T.J. Warren level mid-range game, but he's a guy that can get you 15 points. You don't have to orchestrate through him. And then you have, both Holiday brothers. I mean, they have some pieces there, no doubt about it. But yes, hard to know exactly who they are without T.J. Warren, and then, obviously we don't know what Karis LeVert is going to bring to them. I mean, we know what he's done in his career. How does that mesh with Indiana? Remains to be seen.
Yeah, and, I think you've seen some individual growth. We've talked about Miles Turner and him really kind of flourishing in this new scheme, but also I think they've gotten more out of Doug McDermott.
Yeah, McDermott's played well.
He's not shooting the three as well as he did last year, but still, some of the other numbers are up across the board, and he's been a little bit more of a consistent scorer. I think McDermott's problem before was that, every once in a while he'd come out and have 15 points, and then for the next week he'd score 6.
Right.
You know what I mean? Combined, and I never really felt like the Pacers had a great grasp on how to use him, and it seems like that's been working out too.
Let me tell you the one thing that I'm not going to say is concern to me, but I think keeping an eye on. Domas Sabonis logged a ton of minutes here in the first quarter of the season. Double-double machine. And I think Sabonis is obviously he is a wonderful player. I worry about that mileage affecting him now as you transition into the spring, whether or not he can sustain it.
Yeah, and the kneecap, that was really scary.
It was.
You were really worried. They're very lucky that was just a bruise. And then he comes back and he plays really well because that's just what he does. But yeah, I'm kind of with you there where you're kind of grinding him into the ground a little bit. But the Pacers know that's what they have to do if they're going to compete. He's got to be kind of that guy. And what I like about the team is that they are some of their parts, but everybody's role is that much more pushed forward by not having Warren and not having LeVert. You know what I mean? So you need a little bit more from Brogdon. You need a little bit more from Turner. You need a little bit more from Sabonis. You need a little bit more from the bench. But ultimately, I'm hopeful that the Pacers are building towards something. I'm just done with this whole oh, this team's going to be a really tough out in April and May. We say that every year around this time, and then every April and May they're sitting at home.
Now, they did have in the Philadelphia game a moment where Goga Batadze had a block up against, and I can't remember who it was he was blocking, but I thought to myself, wait a minute. The last time we saw this, it looks like the logo, the Pacer logo, the ball being blocked. And the last time we saw this, it was Roy Hibbert against Carmelo Anthony. And then with Roy Hibbert, I mean, like everything. After that was like the pinnacle, right? And then just
pretty much
went crashing pretty quick.
Yeah, Roy Hibbert had
I'm not saying Goga Batadze is right there and is about to crash, but I thought, let's just.
He had 4 amazing weeks in 2013. And really, he had a couple of great playoff series against the Heat. I think really that's what raised his profile was the fact that the Heat had no one like Joel Anthony, Birdman. They had nobody that could really kind of bang and hang with him. And he used to just eat their, you used to just drink their milkshake for sure. But yeah, Hibbert was never the player that he was those 4 weeks in 2013, before or after that.
Speaking of drinking milkshakes, we're going to do basically that next, right?
We are
close to.
Yeah, we've got our winners drink milk winner of the week.
Yep.
You had mentioned, I believe, Victor Oladipo. We're going to talk about some comments that he had.
Aren't we done with this?
Well,
aren't we done with this?
I think
guy?
we're done with it, but clearly, folks aren't. They're still reacting.
People will find out that I'm done with it.
I've been done with it.
Yeah.
I was done with it before you were done with it.
Okay.
I'm more done than how done you are
really?
Being done with Victor Oladipo. Dunzo.
What if I'm done with the fact that you're talking about being done before I was done?
All right, I think you're kind of beating this into the ground a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Be honest
Blame
with you.
me,
Kind
sure.
of beating this into the ground.
That's the way it works.
We'll come back with some Vic Talk next. Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Throw it up for Tillman. Whoa, my goodness.
122.60 for Penn. What a swim. Six of them.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz. As you can see, we have poured our fresh, in my case, chocolate milk. Derek's case.
Oh, yeah.
What are you going with, Derek? 2%?
2%.
2% milk from the American Dairy Association of Indiana. We'll get you our milk facts in a minute when we do our American Dairy Association of Indiana winners drink milk. But before we do that, let's talk about Victor Oladipo. Derek, you had mentioned a few comments that he'd made to me. It seems like it was 6 months ago, but
I have the quote here.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, just the piece that stuck with people. In case you've been living under a rock the last week and you didn't see this, the comments came after Houston beat the Suns on TNT. I think it was on TNT anyway. Quote, "It's unfortunate going through my career. It just feels like people kind of keep quitting on me, but it's part of life and I embrace it. I'm just trying to make the most of every day. I give God the glory for my ability to play this game." Oladipo averaging 22 points per game in 6 games as a Rocket. So his numbers pretty similar to what he was as a Pacer first half of this year. But I think it struck people the wrong way because, quitting and putting the Pacers into that mix. I think, Jake, I know, everyone knows Pacers didn't quit on Victor Oladipo. It's just something that happened. You know what I mean? He wanted a max deal. The Pacers didn't want to give him a max deal. That's life, and you move on. There was no quitting, though, on Oladipo. In fact, I think the organization backed him through really a career-altering injury, or certainly what could have been a career-altering injury. I think the fan base was supportive with him until it became very clear that Oladipo wanted to go out there and test the waters, which is fine. I think most people understood that was a potential possibility. I think there are a lot of fan bases that would have written off Victor Oladipo far quicker than the Pacers did.
If Victor Oladipo hadn't played collegiately at Indiana, his shelf life here would have been even shorter than it was. You know, it's interesting. If you look at Victor Oladipo's return game when he came back from injury, he's waiting at the scorer's table, and he goes out, and the crowd comes rousing to their feet.
We were there. Jake and I had near front row seats.
That's right. Who was the player that he was checking in for that gave him a hug as he was going into the game? It was Jeremy Lamb. And Jeremy Lamb also himself suffered an injury from which he came back. I realize it was not as severe or as rare an injury. I totally get that. But during Jeremy Lamb's time rehabilitating, he spent a lot of it in Indianapolis. He was around his teammates. He came and sat on the bench, and he went to practices. He didn't immediately go to Miami and seek refuge down in Miami with the guy that's in his ear telling him all the time how great he is. When the Pacers asked Victor Oladipo to come back and be on the bench with his teammates during the playoffs, after he wasn't there for the beginning of their playoffs against the Boston Celtics, they had to call him and say, "Did you think about maybe coming and being with your teammates?" "Oh, yeah, I'll do that." Then he missed his flight. Then he's off doing in the offseason, so it's certainly within his right, doing a reality show, worrying about his brand.
Masked Singer, right?
Yeah. Victor Oladipo is a nice guy, and he's a nice basketball player. Victor Oladipo, as I've been saying for a year and a half, became more concerned about Victor Oladipo, the brand, than Victor Oladipo, the player. And, Derek, I have long said, this, of course, reminds people of what situation involving what player.
Yeah, I don't even need to say it. Paul George.
Okay. When was the first time you'd ever heard of Paul George?
When the Pacers brought him in for a workout, and I was like, who is that guy? I know he plays. I think he plays in the WAC, and I looked him up.
Correct. Not a household name, right?
No. Literally 2 weeks before the Pacers drafted him was the first time I'd ever even knew anything about Paul George.
So at Fresno State, I would assume he was the guy, but he was the guy at a place when no one even knew that they were playing basketball, right? Victor Oladipo, when's the first time that you thought to yourself, this guy might be an NBA player?
I think it was somewhere in his sophomore year.
Right?
Yeah.
And who were his teammates?
Well, he had a lot of great ones. Christian Watford, Jordan Hulse, Cody Zeller.
Cody Zeller.
Mm-hmm.
Cody Zeller, who was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, who was the recruit that was going to turn around the fortunes of Indiana. Cody Zeller was the straw mix in that drink. Victor Oladipo was a great player, and people figured out, well, this guy can play. You know, the picture against Michigan where he's coming in for the dunk, didn't complete the dunk, but he was a great player at Indiana, and he was a very popular player, no question about it. But he was able to play to an extent under the shadows of Cody Zeller, who was getting all of the attention and praise.
Cover of Sports Illustrated, the whole deal. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happens when you have guys, Paul George, Victor Oladipo both, where for the very first time they are seeing all of the spotlight on them as it's happening right before them? It's more difficult for them to handle it and deal with it than it is for Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. Those guys have had that attention on them since they're 15.
Yeah.
They know how to handle it. It's not Victor Oladipo's fault that he's too professionally immature to know how to handle the situation. And if he needs to create things in his head and create controversies in his head and create slights in his head to make himself feel better and motivate himself, I'm all for it. Go for it. But the Pacers front office becomes the collateral damage there, because for Victor Oladipo to say that he was not informed of what was going on or that he was blindsided by this means that he clearly probably should not play the stock market, because he has zero sense of smell in the room.
Can I ask you kind of a personal question?
Mm-hmm.
Have you, because I know you've dumped many girls, have you ever been dumped in a relationship?
Yes.
I've been dumped many
Once.
times. That may be surprising to our audience.
I was dumped once.
Okay. And I think all guys do this, so you tell me if you've done this before. When I've been broken up with, There was a girl named Ann who I was
Ann.
really, really into. I met her the first night at IU.
Oh,
and
okay,
yeah, in the movies, you go to college, and the first night in college, you're like, oh, wow. And I was like, oh, this is just like the movies. And
you met Ann. Where was Ann from?
Arlington Heights, Illinois. Yeah.
Okay. Also an out-of-towner then.
Yeah.
Out-of-stater. Yeah,
and she was just taken in by the backwards visor and the earrings and I had a lot going on in the transitioning out of the 20th century into a new millennia. We were excited. We were past Y2K. You know what I mean? It was an exciting time in my life. But anyway, she dumped me, and it was just because whatever. She didn't want to be tied down her entire 4 years in college in a relationship, right?
You mean she didn't sense the success that would become the hot cup of Schultz?
She obviously regretted it.
Okay.
But after that happened...
She never woke up to smell the coffee? That sounds like my ex.
After that happened, I made up all these things in my head like, oh, well, she's this or she's that or she was talking to this person or whatever else.
Right.
And I knew deep down it was a lie. It was just she didn't want to be my girlfriend anymore. Whatever, that's fine. And I just think naturally we do that. And I think if Oladipo needs that to motivate himself, great. But it doesn't change the fact that it's a lie. It's something that he made up in his head. And, we kind of did this here in Indiana where the Paul George breakup happens. It hurts. It stings. Oladipo comes in. And remember that first year, people were saying, well, Oladipo's better than Paul George. No, he's not.
Right.
Victor Oladipo is never better than Paul George. But it made us feel better about the breakup that we just went through that, see, the new girl is better. We love her more.
And the new girl was, to a lot of people, it was like, well,
we're
not going to get burnt. Yes.
Yeah,
We're not going to get burnt this time because we know this one. We have history. We grew up together.
Yeah. See, so much of life can just be compared to breaking up with your or getting dumped by your girlfriend.
The problem is Pacer fans felt like they'd grown up with Victor Oladipo, but the problem is Oladipo was still growing up by the time he got to the Pacers.
This is the comparison. I think I made this comparison on the show where Paul George was more of the, oh, she's out of my league. This is, I know deep down this is never going to last. Victor Oladipo was the one where you're waiting at the altar and everything, you've already paid the caterer and non-refundable deposits and all of that, and he never shows up to the church.
Right.
I mean, that's what I think it felt like for Pacers fans. You really thought that was a marriage, not a fling.
Okay, so let's transition very smoothly from Victor Oladipo and the disaster that is, into a better segment, Derek, which is where you read the milk facts, including chocolate milk, and I sit here and I enjoy myself. Eggs, spinach, and a banana. You don't see those things, do you? Because they're all right here.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to say it like that, because I don't know if you want to picture that while you're drinking the milk, but it packs the nutritional value of 10 cups of raw spinach, 2 boiled eggs, and as much potassium as a banana. That's vitamin A, calcium, and potassium, all in there, and it's the perfect post-workout drink. Yeah, I went to
anytime drink.
I was at the JCC on Saturday throwing my ish around, and came back and had just an ice cold chocolate milk. It was delicious. Like, it could see like the veins popping and all of that. Like, it was a really great.
Our buddy Scotty Russo
drink.
likes to take pictures of the veins popping after workouts.
Ooh, that's all, Scotty. If you're listening, watching, hi. That's all he takes pictures of.
Is his veins popping?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's basically the same picture.
Would you like to go first with your winner's drink milk from the American Dairy Association of Indiana winner of the week?
Yeah, let me go first because this is, I think, a little bit off the beaten path, but I know is a guy that you like as well. And they play on Monday night. We're taping this on Monday, so this may not be true anymore. But Greg Lansing and Indiana State are riding a 5-game winning streak now. They've shot up to 3rd in a very competitive Missouri Valley Conference, which usually the Valley is competitive. But you've got teams like Drake, who's unbeaten, and Loyola Chicago, who's hanging around the top 25.
Very well coached.
Yeah, it's a good league. 9-7 now, so they're back to a winning record. And he's just a guy that I've always rooted for. To me, he is a kind of a mid-major version of Matt Painter, where he's just a dude who happens to be a pretty good college basketball coach. And I think overall at Indiana State, there have been some peaks and valleys. Unfortunately, a lot of the peaks came very early for him, and there were some valleys in the middle of his tenure, but he's now 11 years in, and I just really hope that he's found something to kind of stabilize the program because they had a pretty nice year last year. And I'm hopeful that this stays on the upward trend for him there in Terre Haute.
Very likable guy for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to give mine to not necessarily a person, but an organization. And we mentioned it earlier. But look, I got to give a lot of credit to the Detroit Lions and the way they handled the Matthew Stafford situation. here's a guy that's been a great player for them, that was the number 1 overall pick, that they built their franchise around. And I don't know whether it was Stafford that came to them or they came to Stafford or whatever it might be, but when they decided that it was time to move on from that era, I think they did so very professionally. When they had a new coach, they had a new GM, they had a lot of change going on, and they did it very amicably and professionally on both accounts, and they got a haul by getting 2 first-round picks as well as Jared Goff. I know they're taking on that contract. It's a lot of money, but it's not like they're taking on that contract to inherit a guy, to inherit Carson Wentz that there's a lot of question about. And Goff's a decent player. I just think for the Lions, for once, it appears as though their organization did things the right way.
Yeah, so in other words,
Kudos
they
to
didn't
them.
call Matthew Stafford on a cold January Tuesday frantically one morning and say, hey, it's over.
That's
Is that what you're saying?
That's
Yeah.
how it ended for us. That's
For
right.
both of you.
That's right. I don't know if I'm Goff or Stafford in that situation, but, a couple of number ones that were swapped.
A couple of number ones, for sure.
What do we have to get to next?
We've got more features. In fact, you won an award. So not only are we going to hand out more awards, but you won one. We'll talk about that. Also, some college hoopage when we return. And Bite or Bowl Bleep from our friends at the shop. And who am I missing? Oh, Love That Play. Love HVACs. Love That Play. I've got a great one for this week from a guy who we just mentioned on the show very randomly.
Really?
So this is all going to come kind of full circle.
Okay.
Here. It's Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Stick around.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do. From Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
The best video on the internet is not the guy of the last week or so. It's the surfing bulldog.
Expecto Patronum, like, Harry Potter. Everybody knows what I'm talking about at home.
I'm not
confused.
12.
You are one of the most disgusting people I've ever met.
You asked. You open up the door. Squeaky. Colts quarterback room is kind of like picking your favorite Ernest movie. They're all pretty bad. You have
Did you actually see any of those?
You have to go. I really was a big Ernest fan. Yeah.
No way.
Ernest fan. Ernest Goes to Camp was my favorite. Welcome back. It's Query and Schultz here on ISC Sports Network alongside Jake Query. I'm Derek Schultz. Time to get to our Love That Play, brought to you by our friends at Love Heating and Cooling. They are a 3-generation family business, but not only that.
Derek, it's right here. Love Heating and Air Conditioning. I know you're saying.
I call it Love Heating and Cooling. On their Twitter handle, it says Love Heating and Cooling.
Love Heating and Air Conditioning. They're just asking that. I mean,
as long as you get love right, HVAC.
And here's the thing:
heating and air.
They love
heating and cooling.
They love heating your house. They love the air conditioning that they put in that serves as cooling, but it's Love Heating and Air Conditioning.
I never step on you when you do
Love-HVAC.
What? No, that's what I say. It's my turn.
But I'm just saying.
We are 1A and 1B. We are co-hosts of this show.
Let me ask you something.
It was my turn to come back from the segment, and this is my read.
You were born in what year?
1983.
Okay, by 1983, I already knew Chris and John Love. I'd known him for a couple of years by then. I've known him basically my whole life. And I can tell you, I've been around him a lot. When someone says, now, what do you do for a living? And they say, well, we're involved with Love Heating and Air Conditioning. They sponsored my Little League team, the Red Sox. You know what? 1986, I was on the Red Sox. 85 and 86, Allisonville Little League. Mm-hmm. You know who was a really good player in the league?
Damon Bailey.
Played for the White Sox. Jeff Canada.
Lars Tate.
Jeff Canada Lars Tate was unbelievable. 1984 Gatorade High School Offensive Player of the Year before becoming the second all-time leading rusher at Georgia, Lars Tate. 1984 North Central Panthers. Wood Warbler Coffee and Jeff Canada played for the White Sox. Love Heating and Air Conditioning sponsored the Red Sox in the 1986 Allisonville Little League.
Okay, well, Love Heating and Cooling, Love Heating and Air Conditioning, Love HVAC put in a new HVAC unit in my house when we first moved in Midtown in 2014. And when I was dropping off the final check for that, I went into John's office and he said, hey, don't tell Jake this because we're childhood friends, but I just have immense respect for your talent, and I think you're the straw that stirs the drink of that show. And I said,
okay.
John, I really appreciate that. Thanks. You've been a great business partner of ours, and I really appreciated him being honest and genuine.
He said this to you before or after you gave him the check?
That's irrelevant. Yeah, that's not relevant to the story.
Sure.
There, our winners drink milk play of the, or excuse me, our Love HVAC love that play. Cody Zeller, who we just mentioned. Did you see this clip?
I did not.
Dunked on Giannis. Like brutally done. Sometimes they have the clip. Oh my God, yeah, he posterized him, and then you look at the clip, and it's like kind of a flyby.
Right.
Giannis really tried to block him, and Zeller, who's balding now, he's kind of looks like a Brian Cardinal type.
He does.
Just brutalized him and had no reaction, which made it better. But I loved it.
Cody Zeller is funny because I saw somebody the other day that was like, the Pacers need to do what they do what they can to get Cody Zeller, and I'm like, he's a nice player, but he's just kind of a guy, right?
Cody Zeller
in the NBA, he's just a guy.
Yeah, Cody Zeller has become, I think, exactly what people thought he would be. Like, to me, Zeller was a low ceiling, high floor type player where I was very confident that Cody Zeller was going to play in the league for like 12 or 15 years, but never be like a standout player, but like a good starting caliber NBA big man.
I mean, a solid, 8.8 rebound per guy. Jeff Foster.
You want me to look up his career averages? Because I bet they're right around there.
I'm going to say he's averaging for his career or this season.
Let's do both. But I would say for his career, he's averaging 11 and 7.5.
I will say 8.6 points, 6.5 rebounds per game.
Okay, so a little less
for his career.
Yeah,
8.6 and 6.5 is my guess.
Oh wow. He is averaging 8.6 points per game for his career and 6 rebounds. Wow, that's pretty good. Did you look that up? Did you hear Rake? What am I doing? Rake in the background?
No.
Was Rake talking back there? Did he look it up?
Derek, I research these things. I pay attention.
I'm going to let you guys
I know this is going to be shocking, but I've spent 2 decades now as a sports media personality, which means I actually pay attention.
I'm going to let you guys behind the curtain because I in the past I felt like it's helped the show, but it's time to kind of put down the facade here. Right behind this thin door, behind Jake, is Greg Rakestraw, who is an encyclopedia of information when it comes to Indiana sports.
Bring him in right now.
And
Greg,
so sometimes he's having conversations with Greg Mash or Jordan or anybody else, and Jake hears them.
Did you give me that information?
And then he gets it.
I'm sorry, Derek. This was all from Jake.
Thank you.
I did not say a word.
I thought I heard something.
Just the voices in your head. Continue on.
You can't even hear him there. He's got a mask on.
I thought I heard something there.
Okay.
I thought I heard him say 8.6, and then you just parroted it.
Okay.
It's like there's a puppeteer in the background, and then Jake just whatever.
I'm just telling you.
The trivia puppet says. What's your love that play?
My love that play actually, and this is one I appreciate Derek asking me because typically we each come up with our favorite play of the weekend. My favorite play of the weekend actually came on this program when Derek Schultz, in his infinite wisdom and his encyclopedic knowledge of sports, questioned and asked me the career averages of Cody Zeller. At that point, I said that I was targeting somewhere around 8.6 points and 6.5 rebounds per game. Derek then used his trusty laptop, and you could tell I don't even have one in front of me. It's all right there. And I said 8.6 and 6.5, and he looked it up, and it's 8.6 and 6.0. My incredible knowledge and intuition to be able to exactly, precisely say the career scoring average of Cody Zeller during his time in the NBA is my favorite play of the week. And it's something that I can assure you would be the pride for Chris and John Love because they've known me a long time. Love-HVAC.com, 317-353-2141.
You kind of have 2 talents. You're a 2-trick pony. You're able to get it nearly on the nose. Career earnings for NBA, Major League Baseball, and NFL athletes who have played for a long time. And mileage numbers between, if you want to know how long it takes to get from Newark, Delaware to Lincoln, Nebraska, Jake could get you within 50 miles just with his guess. Like, those are the 2 talents. And somehow you've parlayed this into a multimedia career. And I guess I'm not even mad. I'm impressed.
Newark, Delaware to Lincoln, Nebraska. Are we going to do that one right now?
Fine, just to humor everybody.
Newark, Delaware to Lincoln, Nebraska, I am going to say is 1,248 miles. I could be.
This is flight information. Hang on.
I'm putting it out there. I mean, I'm running a huge risk here.
What did you say?
1,248.
Okay, I'm not even going to say
what is
that
it?
No, I'm
what
not
is
interested.
It? No, read it. I want to know what
when
it
we
is.
come back here on
look it up.
Query and Schultz, ISC Sports
Hold
Network.
on.
I don't even know.
This was not in any way. What is it?
There's no way that you must have known that I was going to say something about that.
What is it?
There's just no way that you would have done this.
I'm knocking stuff over. What is it?
What'd you say?
I said 1,248 miles. It is 1,240.4 miles from Newark, Delaware
it's just ridiculous.
to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah, I just hate that I even did that.
Again,
I shouldn't have even said that.
Okay.
I should have chose like Belarus or something. I should have chosen like
you can't drive
some other,
from Belarus.
some other country.
Ridiculous.
I just come on.
Okay.
Can't be right. We'll get that in post. We'll edit that out in post. Greg and Greg, just kind of mark that, and we'll knock that out.
Knocked over our WGU water bottle.
We've got some college hoops to get to as well. Purdue rallying for a win over Minnesota. Let's actually talk about that just real quick while we're here. We've still got the rest of the show to do. But I was impressed by what Purdue did. You know, clearly they're missing Sasha Stefanovic, and offensively it took them a while to get their bearings. But man, these young players and Brandon Newman and Mason Gillis and Jaden Ivey makes an eye-popping play seemingly every night now. They're all contributing.
It's a baby Boilers, part right? Or not duh, because you had the baby Boilers. But before that, people forget, the triplets, obviously.
Three Amigos.
The Three Amigos, yeah, how good they were. Look, this is really encouraging for Purdue because Trevion Williams has really come into his own, and now you have a supporting net around him. What I thought was most impressive, Derek, was, look, COVID, it's been a difficult year for everybody in terms of footing of schedule and gap between games. That it was set up this way, but they lose to Michigan, and then they got to sit around and stew for 8 days on it. They come out against Minnesota, and they're down 5 at the half, and you think, oh, boy, is this the roof caving in on the year? And they come back with that kind of a second-half effort and do so by getting solid play and leadership from another in the rotation of young players. Very encouraging. And Purdue's, look, they're going to be sneaky come tournament time. I know that the latest bracketology I looked at, and I do think that those things, Joe Lenardi's in particular, he's usually pretty dead on, has 2 Indiana schools right now in the tournament. There was, for a while there, it looked like Purdue was going to be the only one carrying the flag for the state of Indiana, but I think they have the ability to maybe get into the second weekend of the tournament, depending on how the draws go.
Yeah, and their schedule the rest of the way, Jake, is not good. They're through the teeth of their schedule. Maryland, who they play, depending on when you're watching this, they play tonight. If you're watching this
so
on
you're
Tuesday
saying
night.
The schedule is good for them.
Northwestern, who's completely nosedived after a promising start to the season. Michigan State is a total disaster right now. I don't know if you've seen what's going on with them. Nebraska stinks. They're the worst team in the league. Penn State's not any good. Indiana, they beat like a drum every single year. They've got a tough game against Wisconsin coming up. So, there's a chance here for Purdue to really kind of go on a run to end this season.
Is Tom Izzo quietly in the twilight? I mean, we know he's in the twilight age-wise, which is hard to believe. But is Tom Izzo, is it warming up at all?
Yeah, no, I think he's a guy that's going to stay as long as he wants to stay. I think what actually helps Izzo is the fact that Kentucky's down, Duke's down, Kansas is down.
Correct.
Carolina's down. Everybody's down.
Kansas got demolished over the weekend.
Yeah, everybody's down right now. It's a very weird, like Alabama basketball is really good this year. Like it's a very strange college basketball season where, a lot of the notable powers aren't as good as we're used to them being. So I think that actually helps Izzo, but Izzo's going to stay as long as he wants there. Tom Izzo is Michigan State basketball. I know they had some history before him, but, he's earned that, I think.
I was off by 7.6 miles.
Yeah, good for you. Also, Indiana plays a college basketball game coming up this week as well. Just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. I've got nothing else to say on it. They're technically going to play. So
Indiana went undefeated in 76, and if you put a point between the 7 and the 6, you get 7.6. The exact number of miles I was off in my estimation between Newark, Delaware, and was it Lincoln, Nebraska?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that same gift that you have is about as relevant as the 1976 Indiana Hoosiers.
That 7.6 miles that I was off was literally 1 mile short of 8.6, which happens to be the career scoring average of Cody Zeller during his time in the National Basketball Association.
You know what? We're actually going to junk. I had Jake actually won an award over the weekend. We're going to junk that segment.
That's fine.
Because
I just won an award
kind of moving on
all on my own. Mileage and scoring estimates.
So we'll wrap up with the Shop's Bite or Bull Bleep, Super Bowl picks and storylines when we return for a final time. It's Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Just so you know, Derek, when it comes to that little game, I'm going to get plenty of mileage out of those two things.
Are we still talking about this? We had a break, so now we move on to whatever the next.
Did you
thing
see the
is.
fabulous T-shirts that we have in front of us here?
I know.
I love
some
this beautiful
Larry Bird one. I don't know if you guys can.
Larry Bird one's great. This one's great too.
I don't want to unfold it because it's so perfectly folded.
Beautiful.
That's
kind
sharp.
of the vintage Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Very cool.
Oh yeah.
Matt Lakin has to have one of these, right?
I think Matt Lakin probably has all of these. He's a fan of the Pacers and Colts in the 500.
It's very cool. The shop, by the way, theshopindy.com. We are always happy to be on board with the shop. Theshopindy.com or 920 Broad Ripple Avenue. You can also find them in Clay Terrace. But whether you're talking about nostalgic Indiana, Paramount Music Palace, for example, one of the T-shirts that you can get, the TP, or simply an old school look for your current teams, whether it be college or professionally, theshopindy.com. Fabulous quality T-shirts of a nostalgic nature throughout central Indiana.
Here's what we do for Bite or Bold Bleep. I give a statement. Jake and I go back and forth whether we buy it or it's Bold Bleep. You ready for statement one?
Sure.
We actually touched on this earlier. Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff will be the only two quarterbacks traded this offseason.
No, that's bull, Schultz. I'm with you, Derek. Look, you can't say only two because you could even have – maybe it's not going to be a mainline player. But, you know, there could, I mean, let me put it to you this way. Does it count if – I'm trying to think of somebody that's a backup that you're like, that guy's – what's his name? Mike Glennon.
That's a great one, yeah.
If Mike Glennon is traded
from
for a
Jaguars
6th-round pick to the Arizona Cardinals, does that count?
Yeah, good point. I mean, I'm focusing more on that group of I can't imagine that Darnold.
The better way of saying it is, are those two the only two quarterbacks that will be traded into a seeming starting position?
Yeah.
And
I still say Bold Bleep, right?
I would agree.
Because I can't imagine that Darnold, Wentz, Trubisky, Foles, all these guys that are under contract, none of them, Ryan, none of them get moved.
Is Fitzpatrick under contract in Miami?
I don't even know. I feel like he's just been signing one-year deal after one-year deal.
Because if he's under contract, he's a guy I could see getting moved because they want to hand it over to Tua, you know.
Let me look at his contract just real quick.
I like Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Got to take down this freaking map of Lincoln, Nebraska first before I get there.
1,248 miles.
He is on a 2-year deal.
Yeah, so
he is under. Oh no, it says free agent 2020. He signed a 2-year deal last year. That's what it was.
So no, I say it's bull, Schultz.
Statement number 2. Sorry, I've got to get back to my script here. Purdue will be a national championship contender next year. Buy it or Bold Bleep?
Yeah, I'll buy it. I mean, as much as they were when Carson Edwards and Ryan Klein got hot. I mean, were they a national championship contender?
But I don't think they were viewed that way, really.
Final Four contender is probably a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
Purdue could be a national championship contender within the tenure of these freshmen, for sure. One
thing that I'm not 100% sure that they have that those other teams had, like E21 Moore, Caleb Swanigan, Carson Edwards, was that I'm not, even though it's a great team and a great group of young players, I'm not 100% sure that they have like that guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I think that there's a chance that Jaden Ivey might become a special player, even Brandon Newman. Travion Williams is a great, like, all-league caliber player and potentially, I guess, an NBA player too. But I just don't know if they have, like, that caliber of a player. But, yeah, for sure. I think that they could be absolutely a Final Four contender if we're assuming that everybody's back, and I don't see any reason why everybody wouldn't. You'll have some attrition somewhere on the roster, but yeah, for the most part, you'd expect all the big guns to be back.
All right, what's next?
Statement 3, February is the worst month of the year. Buy it or bull.
Oh, that's 100% bull, Schultz. February is actually not bad, and I'll tell you why. About mid-December, when it starts getting cold out and you get a couple snow flurries, you get past it in your mind because you're like, hey, it's Christmas time. And there's a magic of Christmas. It goes without saying. But you know that week between Christmas and New Year's, you're like, okay, I mean, at least I got New Year's, it's the holidays. People are still coming in and out of work, and everybody, you kind of feel like you're skating by. And then you wake up New Year's Day. 31-day month, gray, cloudy, cold. And it's a long tunnel. By the time February comes, short month, midway through it, you get a holiday in Valentine's Day, which I'm not a huge fan of, but whatever. And you know that you're right on the cusp of March Madness and
springtime,
St. Patrick's Day and springtime. Yep. So no, February to me is not. It's mid-pack. It's mid-tier. The 3 worst months of the year. January is way up there.
Yeah, January's way up there.
November.
Yeah, but I just love Thanksgiving so much.
Thanksgiving's cool, but it's towards the end of the month, and you got to go through 3 weeks of the temperatures plummeting.
Yeah, that's
sun,
fair.
It gets dark at like 3:30
a good argument
in the
for
afternoon.
November being crappy.
And then I think, to be honest with you, even though I like the weather because I'm a huge summer guy, but August is pretty rough because it's the dog days of summer and it's really hot, but it's coming to an end. Yeah. Towards the end of it, all of a sudden you get a crisp day and you're like, wait a minute.
When I was in school age, I hated August because summer's about to end, and so I'm kind of with you, and I don't like being hot. You know what I mean? You can always add layers on. You can't, you can always take so much off.
What's that?
You can only take so much off when it's really hot outside.
Obviously around here, May is the pinnacle.
May would be up there
March
for me.
March is way up there.
I love September. It's a great weather month.
I love
football.
the summer. I love when it gets dark at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night.
I like that too.
I'm
also going to say boldly, February is not the worst month of the year because it involves a miraculous birth that we celebrate, that many thousands of people celebrate in central Indiana, and that's my birth, my miracle birthday, February 27th.
When is your birthday?
10:44 p.m., February 27th.
Aren't there only like 26 days in February?
There are 28 days in February. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But we were actually really premature because we were supposed to be born.
Do you know how thrilled I
5th.
am? I could not be more thrilled about the fact
we came 10 weeks early.
We are not on daily anymore, so I don't have to listen to this crap for an entire week.
And we were in an incubator, really fighting for life.
Okay.
I mean, as scary as Jake's heart attack was, there was kind of a been there, done that thing for me, just subconsciously.
You
because
recall that?
I know what I went through and the odds that I was given. Very early on, where medical science was not close to where it is now in 1983. They barely had prenatal units in hospitals at that time. But thankfully, the talented folks at Yale New Haven Hospital, which also doubles as the greatest city on earth for pizza, New Haven, Connecticut, were able to help me push through. And, this was all meant to be.
They got a Basbo's in New Haven?
No, they don't have a Basbo's in New Haven. No, they have a white clam pie.
Okay.
At Pepe's, which is really, really good. And then Sally's, a pizza, is very good as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But this was all meant to be, and I don't really think about it in that way.
So
I'm
white
happy
clam
with
pie near the prenatal unit?
My friends and family and all of that, but also the show, the brand, the success, the image, the transcendence.
I'm going to go back to my chocolate milk.
Was meant to be. Mm-hmm. Thanks to our crew today, Greg Mash, Greg Rakestraw, Wes Wolf as well, everybody here at ISC.
We should thank WGU Indiana as well.
That's right. And I was going to say our sponsors, too. The Shop Indy, American Dairy Association of Indiana, Wood Warbler Coffee, and Love HVAC.
Okay.
How about that? Since you got
WGU Indiana.
Yeah, you mentioned
Ambition never rests.
Yes.
Right.
We'll see you next week. Oh, we got to do Super Bowl picks just real quick.
I think Tampa's going to keep it closer than people think. Kansas City's offense is awfully difficult to contend with, but I'll go with the upset. I'll say that Tampa's defense makes things tricky, and I hate to say it, but Tom Brady has one last one rabbit left in the hat, and Bruce Arians gets that elusive Super Bowl win.
Yeah, I don't think the Chiefs are ever seriously threatened. I think it's
that's
closer
fair.
than in the end. I think they win 31-21. I mean, I think Tampa's a great story, and you're right. They've got a great defense, and you never want to count out Brady, but I just think that we've been discounting Kansas City all year long, and they're clearly the best team in the league.
Fair enough.
So I'm going to go with kind of the boring thing and say 31-21. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll talk about it next week on Query and Schultz. See you then.
The drive, the take, fouled, and it goes!
Lobbing it to the back of the end zone. They're going to say it's a touchdown.
That ball wiggles in and into the back of the net.